Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We're going to get here started here in a little bit, but wanted to go ahead and get the stream started so that we would be punctual and on time. Hopefully you find that to be the case. So I'm just double checking a few extra things before we get started here. But if you have any questions that you want to ask before we get started, feel free to drop those in the live chat and we'll get to them. Looks like there's already a good active live chat going on right now. So please stay with us and ask any questions or share any thoughts while we discuss the episode. Some people have already asked the question, well, why aren't you looking at how does she do it? That was actually supposed to be episode 4. That's correct, but the episode that aired in the 4th slot in the airing order, the 4th episode was Livewire, and that was the episode that the 4th episode that we covered on Supergirl Radio initially, because that is what aired. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into the episode discussion. But if you did have a question about that, we've already thought about it. So so that is why we're discussing Livewire in the 4th episode slot, because that's what we did initially. So in order to give Morgan the official Supergirl Radio rewind treatment, we are going to do it as we did early on in the run. So that is what we're going to do. I see Kenny asked the questions about Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. Kenny, we got your email, so we'll talk about that in the listener feedback section. So that's something that we'll get to as well. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. I'm trying to look through the comment section. There's some discussion about the episode already. New Rachel says, this is the episode that got me really invested in Supergirl. I wanted to watch it from the beginning so I could learn more about the character because I hoped a Brainiac would be in it. And this is one of the better episodes of season 1 and of the show, in my opinion. I'm actually wearing a Live and Wired shirt for the occasion. But yeah, so I agree. I think Livewire is one of the better episodes of the series, and it really shows that they took the time to do some of the special effects, some of the Livewire like electric whips and stuff like that. They were pretty good for the time period, and some of the character beats in this are really well thought out and expanded on for all the characters, I think. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Andy says, I love the background. It's actually not the background of the actual live stream. That's Leslie getting electrocuted through Supergirl in the helicopter. But this one behind me is actually of the wall O monitors that I love so much in Kat's office, where Livewire takes over the monitors, which is pretty awesome. It's a great use of that. She, as a media person, would understand the value of that. And actually, in Superman the Animated Series, Livewire, Leslie Willis is actually called the Queen of all media. Not Cat Grant, but that's a fun fact for people who have not watched Superman the Animated Series. Why haven't you? You should. It's great. All right, so I see Morgan there. Morgan, you good to go?
I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. I guess you have the doc and everything. I know I sent it kind of late in the day.
Got it open.
Okay, good. All right. So we are just going to talk about the episode and make some snap judgments. And it's going to be a lot of fun. If there's any snappy listener or boardroom bosses in the live chat, we did invite some of our Patreon supporters if they want to make some snap judgments with us. Click on the StreamYard link that we sent you through the Patreon today, and you can join us for snap judgments if you would like. All right. Well, I suppose we should get live and wired for this one. That seems the most
I think that makes sense.
Appropriate thing to do. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll see you on the other side.
Leslie Lar's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
What
me?
year is it?
How old am I? This is how the podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! Exclamation point. Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good, good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not mess
typing.
with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because really?
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series, or maybe still the CBS series at the time.
We're throwing it back.
And the character of Kara Zor-el. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired very appropriately and very timely on the Supergirl Radio Facebook page and the DCTV Podcast YouTube channel to go back in time. We're going to do a little time traveling because Morgan didn't actually get to review the Supergirl episodes as in season 1 as a full-time co-host of Supergirl Radio until World's Finest, which aired in March of 2016. So we are revisiting the first season to get Morgan's thoughts. You've already gotten my thoughts on the podcast, but we don't know what Morgan thought about Leslie Willis's introduction. So we are going to get to that. Now, we should clarify, because we did get some questions about this prior to the live stream. This week, we'll be discussing season 1, episode 4, which was titled Livewire. Now, that is the airing order of Supergirl season 1. This episode, Livewire, was originally supposed to be the 5th episode to air, but due to the November 2015 Paris attacks at the time, CBS decided to replace How Does She Do It, which would have been the 4th episode. It's getting a little complicated now that I'm trying to explain it. How Does She Do It? Due to the sensitive nature and the content of that episode, I'm assuming because there are some bombs in that episode. I've always kind of
Is that the train episode?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So I think that is why they never explicitly said. They just kind of changed the airing of it.
And it makes sense because the last episode that we talked about was like pretty Maxwell Lord heavy. And then he was talking about that train. He wanted it blue.
Yeah, he had to have those.
He
blue
wanted
strings.
it faster. So it makes sense that the next episode would have been, they were all leading up to the train.
Yeah.
And then we get the Livewire episode. So that does make sense for the order of things.
Yeah, so it got changed around because of the sensitive content of that episode. So in its place, the network, CBS at the time, aired Livewire as the fourth episode of the series. So for Supergirl Radio Rewind, we're going to be watching these episodes in air order. There is such a thing as production order and air order. So we're going to be watching them in air order. And this is actually the order in which we originally discussed the episodes during the first season 1 of Supergirl Radio. So we're just matching what we did, what Teresa and I did for Morgan's Supergirl Radio Rewind experience.
I get to experience it the same way you did.
Yes, exactly. We're just matching it up as we go. So if anyone had questions about the order of the episodes, that is why we chose to go with the airing order. All right. Well, I guess we should do it. We should do a little time traveling and get to talking about Livewire. Okay, so let's get into our discussion of season 1, episode 4, Livewire. So here's the official description. Quote, Kara's Thanksgiving may be ruined when she suspects her foster mother, Dr. Danvers, who is coming to town, disapproves of her new role as a superhero. Also, when an accident transforms a volatile Catco employee into the villainous Livewire, she targets Cat and Supergirl, unquote. I don't know that Kara really
I was about to say,
had an issue with Eliza.
Veronica, listen, this was right before, maybe it was before the holidays. Veronica's maybe just like phoning it in a little bit.
She's ready to go on that
Veronica was
vacation.
thinking about turkey and stuffing. She was not thinking about the episode she had just watched.
Yeah, I might have said Alex. Let's see what Alex suspects her foster mother. Well, her mother, Dr. Danvers, who's coming to town. That's what I would have written. But Veronica here thinks that Kara is suspicious of Dr. Danvers. So I guess maybe in a way she is, but I think it's because she's just dealing with it because of Alex. So I guess we could start there since we've already been talking about Dr. Danvers. So Helen Slater makes an appearance on the Supergirl TV series. She kind of appeared in the pilot episode as Eliza, but didn't really speak, didn't do much. So Morgan, what did you think about getting to actually be introduced fully to Eliza Danvers in this episode?
Oh, I was so excited. I thought Helen Slater was so great in this episode. And I really liked how they explored the Alex and Eliza relationship, but they also kind of talked about how Kara and Eliza's relationship was, that Eliza was just kind of supportive of Kara, and then she would just if she was kind of mad at Kara, she would just kind of take it out on Alex. She's like, listen, you can't scare this scared alien child that's in our custody, in our care. And Alex is like, Mom, Kara is in her 20s now. Could you be mad at her for once? It's like, no, you should know better. She's still 12. But I thought that was a really interesting dynamic that they played out, that she kind of always took it out on Alex and expected the most from Alex, and the kind of the weight of those feelings that Alex had to carry around, that she always had to look out for her sister, and she was always had to be the responsible one. I thought that it was a really interesting way to introduce her to the show in a more of a featured role, and it was also, later on when they bring Eliza in, she's just always supportive or randomly shooting a gun for some reason. But
shooting owls specifically.
Yeah, you cannot allow those owls to get away with it. She's not having it anymore. Just like Kryptonians do, apparently.
Of course. That's sure. I mean, when I think of Kryptonians, that's what I think of.
Listen, Helen Slater was cashing those checks, and God bless her. But I like that she got to have more of an emotional story in this episode. She got to be more of a kind of a fallible character. I feel like when she comes in a little bit in later seasons, it's it's mom's so supportive, and she's just all right, girls, who wants a pie? And in this one, she got to be a little prickly, and she got to be, not the world's most perfect mom. And I really liked that about this episode. And I think it really allows you to see a better view of Alex's character and like how she got to be the way that she is. I was just like watching this one thinking like, I've been liking all of these season 1 episodes, obviously, and we've been like really enjoying rewatching them. But like this was the first one where I was like, oh man, this was like an A+ episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with those character beats that you really get to know Alex a lot more. You get to know Eliza Danvers, which is a lot of fun because the Helen Slater was Supergirl. So it was fun to see Supergirl and Supergirl share a scene together, especially when Melissa Benoist had her Supergirl costume on. So I just, before we get into talking about Alex, and I would also like to talk about Jeremiah at some point. We'll forget about him until
the first time Jeremiah was allowed to like leave and like no one ever looked for him again.
But I am curious, now that you watched Supergirl the movie, did that make you appreciate Helen Slater on the show a little more?
I mean, I think so. I will say like I always appreciated Helen Slater. I always thought Helen Slater was A+. But yeah, having seen the movie, just seeing everything that poor Supergirl had to go through, just wading through the mess of whatever that movie was, standing triumphant in spite of the nonsensical plot lines. It made me happy that she got to be in a Supergirl show that was like made a little bit more sense, I guess. Not a lot, but
not by the end of it.
Not a ton, but a little bit. No, I mean, I think it made me a little bit more excited to see her because I like now had that feeling of like, oh, hey, that's Supergirl. Because before, obviously, I knew Helen Slater had played Supergirl, but I hadn't watched the movie. So getting to see kind of dueling Supergirls was fun.
Yeah, and because of that, we got the Supergirl cameo, but we also had Dean Cain as Jeremiah Danvers in this one. He got a little more prickly, I guess, if you want to use that word again. That he was maybe not what we thought he was. Or the story of Jeremiah was not what we thought it was, because Eliza was keeping some secrets from the Danvers sisters. So, what did you think about getting to see Dean Cain here?
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was fun to first off to see like the super alumni, let's say, because he was Superman back in Lois and Clark, and obviously she was Supergirl in Supergirl the movie. So it was fun to see them together, and then it was interesting to see like what their relationship was like because we don't get a lot of that in anything, probably because it was hard to book them at the same time. They only had so much budget, and by the time they went to the CW, it was like not a lot, right? They were like, we don't have Supergirl and Superman money. What are you, crazy? The rest of the episode would have just been Nia taking a nap. They're like, she's streaming.
But you know what, Nicole Maines would have sold it.
She would have pulled it off for sure. But it was cool to be able to see their relationship. We got like little bits of it in the episode when she's like, he's looking outside and she asks him to come in while she's working on her dissertation. You kind of got the impression of what they were like as a couple and kind of what they were like as parents when they're yelling at the kids because Kara took Alex on a joyride. And I think it's interesting that that they have sort of that similarity between Alex and Jeremiah that they highlighted, that where they both kept secrets. She never knew that Jeremiah was in the DEO, and her mom didn't know that she was in the DEO. And I thought that was really interesting, the way that, that came out and kind of led her to realize that she needed to tell Alex about what actually happened to her father and like where he actually went. So I thought that was really interesting, and obviously was our first hint that like what is going on with Hank Henshaw, which I think is fun looking back on it. And we know it's Martian Manhunter, but back back when it first aired, I was like, oh man, that guy is bad. I got my eyes on you.
It is a good twist. It does bring a little intrigue into the series. So I would agree with that. Even rewatching it for this, I was like, oh, that was actually pretty well done. A good job, season 1 of Supergirl. made me shocked by that, even though I've seen this episode many, many times. So I really liked getting to see Jeremiah and Eliza in this episode. It was a little weird, though, I will admit, to see Supergirl and Superman kiss. That was a little strange for me. But I got over that once, in my head, I reconciled that those were two totally different characters that they were playing. But it was nice to see some Danvers, family stuff. That we won't see much of that later on in the series, but we get a lot of it here in this episode, which is nice. So let's and I guess we could talk about I guess we talked a little bit about Alex. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with Alex before we move on?
I just thought that this was a really great Alex episode, actually. Not that she wasn't like great for the first 3, but I thought that this episode, she really got to shine, and we really got to see a different side of the relationship she has with her family, and even the relationship she has with her sister, where they, there is like a little bit of friction there. She did kind of feel like she got this little sister, and then all this responsibility of taking care of her, and that she then got kind of blamed for anything that would go wrong with Kara. It was like, oh, mom's gonna come down on me hard. And I love the the through line in the first part of the episode where Kara is like, mom doesn't care that I'm Supergirl. Like, get over it. And Alex is like, no, I'm waiting. It's happening. It's coming. She's mad. And then like you get halfway through and all of a sudden Helen Slater like sighs heavily, and like anybody with a parent is like, uh-oh, here it comes. That is the sigh of a disappointed parent.
Yeah, Alex was right. She had a reason to be suspicious that her mother would be upset with her. I think that was really great. And I liked it even when Kara approached Eliza to ask, why are you always so much harder on her? So I thought that was nice that Kara sort of stuck up for Alex in that way, because Alex was not handling things well.
No, she wasn't. She made Thanksgiving real weird for Wynn. That's for sure. Wynn's like, I just want to be here with your family. Things about in my family are a little strange, incarcerations and whatnot. and then he gets there and like becomes this battle royale at the Thanksgiving table, which I feel like is kind of a trend on Supergirl. I feel like there have been several awkward Thanksgivings over the course of the show.
Oh yeah, there was a Lena James breakup, I think, at a Thanksgiving dinner. One of their breakups, I think.
One of them, not the final one where she kicked him out of the car.
I think that one came later. But yeah, there is some of that. So yeah, not great for Wynn. Wynn maybe should have just done the Orphan Black marathon and he would have had a good day.
He was like, I had a whole plan. It was gonna be great. Now I feel weird. I like that they actually showed him like letting himself out, where he was like, I'm
just gonna go. This is taking a weird turn for me, so I'm just gonna go.
I thought Wynn was great in this one. He was just really funny. He didn't have a very big part to play, but everything that he did really cracked me up when he was just like, yeah, so I guess I don't have to talk about what I'm grateful for. It's cool. No, take the call from James. Take the call. Has a single tear just like streaks down his cheek. He's like, no, I'm cool. It's great. Love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the show keeps wanting to play up that love triangle here. So just of note as we go through here. Just to answer a question from the chat, New Rachel took my comment about Supergirl and Superman kissing, asking, didn't a version of Supergirl who wasn't related to Superman marry him in one of the comics? I believe that is the Peter David run, which is bonkers. But yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the Supergirl who marries Superman and has a child with him is actually the Linda Danvers version, which is the Matrix Supergirl plus the satanic cult member. So that's not actually Kara Zor-El, his cousin.
The
Yes.
what?
Wait,
I'm
no,
sorry, the what?
have you forgotten this? I feel like I've mentioned this to you, but it's
You
something,
probably have.
it's something that it needs it bears repeating though, because it's a lot to take in. We'll have to really cover that run. But basically in the Peter David run, so in the I should back up real quick. In the 90s, so at this point, Supergirl is Kara Zor-El is dead in the comics. She is killed in Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1984, the same year she got a big screen movie. So
Why
not
does this always happen to her?
not a great year for Supergirl. But so she's killed off in the 80s, but in the 90s, DC Comics is like, we want to bring Supergirl back because she was a great character. And the way they did that was that they had like a Matrix protoplasmic blob who could shapeshift.
Okay.
And so that would be Supergirl. So she could shapeshift into Supergirl. But she had, I think, if I remember correctly, she had Lana Lang's memories for some reason. It was very, very strange.
Okay.
But the Matrix Supergirl, this sort of protoplasmic blob, encountered Linda Danvers, who was just an average. Was she a teenager at the time? This average girl who happened to be in a satanic cult, and they merged together. And they became the Linda Danvers Supergirl from the Peter David run, which is very complicated. And
there's a lot there.
Crazy.
There's a lot to explore there.
There is a lot, which is why the Peter David run has so much Christian imagery. And Supergirl encounters God. She becomes an Earth angel with fire wings. It's
okay.
There's a lot in the.
I can't wait until we can read that one where Supergirl talks to God. That sounds off the chain.
It's actually, honestly, it's one of the better Supergirl runs. It's honestly really great. Like it's really well written. I have to admit. Okay, so where were we after we got sidetracked by Superman and Supergirl marrying in the comics?
I think we were discussing. We were just wrapping up on the Thanksgiving Danvers family stuff of it all. What did you think? I mean, throwing it all the way back to your original thoughts on this episode, but
that was a long time ago.
I know it was a long time ago. But what did you think of the character stuff that this one set up?
Oh, I really liked this one because it gave everybody something to do, and it gave everybody a moment to expand on their character. So Kara's dealing with her sister and her foster mother, and also the weight of possibly turning someone into a supervillain, which is a pretty big thing to think about. And so she's got all of these things that she's dealing with. Cat Grant has her own problems, and we'll talk about her problem in this episode here in a second. The title character of this episode, who I can't wait to pick her brain about. But Cat's dealing with Leslie Willis. And so there's a lot of good stuff there about her being a mentor and all of that. And her connection to Kara, I think, expanded a little bit in this episode, where Kara tells her about her past and her family. And Alex gets good things with Eliza. There's stuff with Eliza that's good character development for her, with all of her stuff with Jeremiah and the DEO. And Wen, as you mentioned, had some good stuff. James is kind of there's less maybe character stuff there for him, but they still play up the love connection between Kara and James. So they're still trying to build that romance. But I thought all of the character beats, just on an overall big picture, I mean, I'm really impressed that they were able to give each character some kind of story, which I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, I see. Rachel left a comment that this is also the episode where we learn Wynn's dad is in prison, which,
yes.
Yeah, this is definitely the first time that they've mentioned that on the show.
Yeah, I don't think he specifically says Toy Man, but he mentions his dad.
No, he doesn't mention Toy Man, but he does say, like, when she starts to say that she's sorry, he does say, like, he's a bad dude
Yeah,
and
he
deserves
did
to
some
be
bad
there.
things. Yeah. Yeah, so that was even just that little bit from Wynn gave us a little more information. So I think 4 episodes in, it's doing a pretty good the show's doing a pretty good job of establishing who these characters are and helping us learn a little bit more about them, which is really, really nice. Speaking of characters, I guess this would be a way to talk more about a few of these characters, starting with Leslie Willis, who was live and wired in this episode.
Live and wired.
So, Morgan, what did you think about the introduction, our first appearance of Leslie Willis, aka Livewire, on Supergirl?
Well, we all know that this is really a Livewire appreciation podcast
every week it is.
as a Supergirl podcast. I loved her. It was actually, I've seen her as Livewire so often that when she first showed up and she wasn't like really pale with like the silver hair and like the dark eyes, I was like, who's that? She looks so tan and healthy. What's going on? It's how like I almost never it always takes me a second to recognize the actress from iZombie because she's not in the zombie makeup. I'm like, why does she look so familiar? Oh, you watched like 5 seasons of that show. But I thought that they really set her up really well. And I think I really like that. I think one of the ways that like season 1 is a little bit different than say a much later season is that she is kind of a mustache twirling villain. She is kind of a bad villain, but they like immediately set up this relationship that she and Kat have that has, some twists and turns and backstory that they don't hit you over the head with, but you do get the impression that, that Kat, found her and like nurtured her talent and that maybe they haven't been getting along recently, but Kat does feel responsible for her. And when she's in the hospital, Kat gives her like a very classic Kat speech that's like, okay, get up, Willis. Like, she's in a coma, Kat. She can't just get up. But
I think that shows some humanity from Kat. For much of what we've seen from Kat already, she's been very hard on people. She, doesn't seem to care much about people. And here we get a little glimpse of Kat showing a little compassion and caring about someone just a little bit.
Yeah, I really liked that they didn't feel like they had to hit you over the head with the fact that like Kat is feeling guilty about what happened. Kat does care about Leslie, even though, they're not seeing eye to eye right now. Because she does have that conversation with Kara where she says like, oh, it's not Supergirl's fault. If it was Supergirl's fault, you could argue it was my fault for sending her up on the helicopter. And you can tell like she does feel guilty for sending her up on that helicopter. And she's like, but it's not. And she, and I really I think Callista played all the scenes so well. And I think that it really gave layers to both of those characters, both Leslie and Kat, that like Kat, has this like long-standing relationship with her and did feel responsible and did want her to turn things around and get out. And then of course when she became an electricity villain, things changed a bit. But but I do like that Kat even got to have like a heroic moment where she faced Leslie down. And I thought that this was a great episode, not just for our girl Livewire, but also this is a great Cat Grant episode, which I think it's so nice coming from the future as we are and going back to the past. It's like, I realize now we didn't have that long with Cat Grant, so it's great to get these nice episodes of her being brave and heroic in her very Cat Grant way.
Yeah, and the Cat Grant story, in my opinion, doesn't take over the episode. It just adds to it. Like there's still a Kara story in there. There's Supergirl still saving the day, but we get a glimpse into Cat Grant's past and her humanity as a person and her connection with Kara, and all of that stems from the fact that she has this connection to Leslie. And I think that's really well done. It's not something that I'm like, oh, Kat took over this episode. I just really enjoyed the connections that Kat has with these different characters, and it actually, makes sense within the storyline that she would have these different connections to each of them. And I think I would agree with you. Kat was very brave. She a couple of times went up against Leslie, and she could have been in some real danger. So I was glad that Supergirl could be there for her, but she held her own and knew that it was her role. I like the idea that Kat tells Kara, go get security. They're 20 floors down. I'll keep her busy. And she knew her role was going to be the person who distracted Leslie while people got help. I still think Kat Grant knows that Kara's Supergirl. I think she knew that when she sent Kara down to security, she knew Supergirl would come back. But that's just my personal opinion. But
yeah, there were definitely a couple moments in this one where I was like, I think Kat knows. I feel like Kat knows, especially in that scene, in the hospital scene that I mentioned earlier, where Kara was like, and again, Kara, the world's worst liar, was like, I bet Supergirl feels very guilty. I don't know that, but I feel like she probably feels very guilty. And Kat basically is like, it's not Supergirl's fault. So I feel like you could read some of those interactions as like her like kind of knowing that Kara is Supergirl.
And I guess in terms of the Kat Leslie relationship with them being mentor mentee, I guess this is also, now that I think about it, maybe the first time is this the first time that we know that Catco has something else besides the newspaper or the magazine?
I think so. They also this might be the first time that Kat is called the queen of all media, or
yes, I think this is the first time,
because to kind of pull it back around to the Thanksgiving stuff. She always likes to work on Thanksgiving because she has a complicated relationship with her mother, just like Alex. And she
parallels.
And she talks about, and Kara says something like, "Oh, your mother must be so proud of you. You're the queen of all media." And so I feel like this is the episode where Catco becomes a little bit more like, what is it? This is the episode where I'm like, and then they have a radio division. And this is probably the beginning of me wanting their org chart and never getting it.
Never.
Because who knows? I guess they own a radio station as well. I guess it's a media conglomerate of some kind, which late in the series does make me wonder why they're putting all their eggs in like print media's basket. Like, if you have other things, shouldn't you be spending more time on those? But I guess they kind of were when they did that VR technology that was supposed to take over the world.
Yes, that maybe was the wrong, like the opposite thing. They went too hard.
They were like, print media is dying. We'll take over the world with VR. Everyone loves that. But yeah, that reminded me of that scene. Reminded me of another of a moment where I was like, I bet Kat is either knows or is putting things together. And that's when Kara mentions having Thanksgiving dinner with her foster mom, and that her parents died in a fire, I think is how she says.
That's what she says. Yeah.
And at some point Kat goes like, I didn't know that about you. That's interesting. Like, I need to know more about, I guess I'm going to need to pay more attention to you. And like, I feel like I could see like the wheels turning where it's like, well, she looks just like Supergirl and she's an orphan like Supergirl is because her planet exploded kind of like in a fire.
I mean, there's probably fire in that explosion.
Might have been some fire. Like, I feel like it's like her just gathering hints for this like theory that she has, that it's like they're starting to pile up now. And she's
at her house, her apartment, she's just got like, string theory stuff around the room.
She's like, she just like put the string from one thing to another. And like, it says like, orphan, fire. She's like, I think I've got it.
It's like a murder board with like Supergirl's picture.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this was definitely one where I was like, I'm starting to buy the theory that she's figured it out. Like if she hasn't figured it out yet, like this is all stacking in a direction that we know is like Kara is Supergirl.
Yeah, I really liked the relationship dynamic between Kat and Kara in this episode. It felt like they weren't just co-workers, and Kat wasn't just her boss. Like it seemed like Kat was actually, taking an interest in Kara as a person. So that's a nice development there. But yeah, so for Livewire, I think they did a pretty good job. It was very faithful to the Superman the Animated Series incarnation where Livewire was created on that TV show. And the only difference really is that on Superman the Animated Series, Leslie is the queen of all media, not Cat Grant. So here they gave it to Cat Grant. But I think that makes maybe more sense for this version, that Cat Grant would be the queen of all media. But the shock jock stuff, the sort of the radio personality, the outfit that she wears is all very, I think, character correct for Livewire in terms of her origin and her first appearance. And I thought Britt Morgan did a really good job. She made those two different aspects of Leslie Willis very different. Like you were saying, the Leslie Willis who was the shock jock in the radio studio, who was bad mouthing Supergirl for some reason. She really did not like Supergirl. She was a very different character than the Livewire character. They still both hated Supergirl, but she was able to, in her performance, make them very different and make them distinct. And I thought that was a really strong portrayal for Livewire.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts is when she's in the helicopter and it's like starts to go down and Supergirl like goes up to save her. She comes in the doorway of the helicopter and like Leslie's like, "Ugh, you." Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a better offer? It made me laugh so hard that she was like, "Oh God, I'm so sick of you." She's like,
would you prefer to crash?
Yeah, I love Livewire. I think she's got such a good, like, the character, the villain, has such a good sense of humor to her. And like, I think having her have that existing relationship with Kat does give it stakes where like she wasn't like a great person, but she was like a person that, Kat had a relationship with. So you don't want like the worst thing to happen to her, but also she's a pretty bad. She like did a blackout on the entire city basically and like kept trying to electrocute people. And I thought her powers are really cool. Like when you would see her just like disappear into a street light and she'd pop back up and she's like, ba-bam.
And I love that she has her own musical theme. Livewire has this sort of electronic musical theme that comes with her every time she appears, which I personally like. I thought that was a really nice touch from season 1, and that carries over in the other appearances of Livewire. That you hear a little bit of her theme. So I know she's mustache twirly, and she just really leans hard into being a supervillain. But I love that. I think that's so fun, and so it's fun to see the first interaction between Supergirl and Livewire, because you can kind of tell that Supergirl doesn't really like that Livewire said some mean things about her. And so the setting up of them being enemies or frenemies, if you want to, later on down the road, I think this is a really good start for that, because you can see why maybe Livewire maybe didn't like Supergirl, and you can see why Supergirl would have an issue with Livewire. So I think they do a really good job of that. And having them connected in Catco, I think, is a nice addition to it.
I think Livewire is like maybe in my opinion, one of my favorite villains that they did on the Supergirl TV series. Like when I think of iconic Supergirl villains, like the first one I think of is Livewire, which is funny because they had like season-long villains that that I liked even, and I still think of like Livewire as kind of like the first one. And I just think it's because like the performance was so good and the writing was so fun, and she's like she is a mustache twirling villain, but she does have some humanity, and she's also just like having fun with being a villain, which is always kind of fun to watch.
Which I guess makes sense from her character. She was already like a mean-spirited person, so of course that kind of person probably would enjoy having lots of power and being able to get at the people that they don't like. So that makes sense for a person such as Leslie.
I see in the comments, Mercenary X84 says Leslie references her experiences in the helicopter in World's Finest with the line, "I hate helicopters," which I probably forgot what that was in reference to by the time I saw that. But that's really funny that they did a callback to Livewire.
And Aaron says in the comment section, the street where Livewire and Supergirl fought was in WB Studios and was like the main street that Gilmore Girls was filmed in.
Oh,
Yes.
I've been on that street.
I have been on the Warner Brothers lot. I've actually been in that DEO set from season 1, which is mostly like
Whoa.
a bat cave. But yeah, so I guess they would have shot some of those same kind of things. Why were you on the Gilmore Girls main street?
Oh, when I was a Gilmore Girl, no, I did the same WB studio tours you
Yeah,
did.
that's what I did.
It's whenever I'm in California, I think about doing some of the other studio tours, but the WB one is just so good.
It
Like,
has
I
a lot
always
of
just
history.
I just end up going back to the WB one. Yeah, but they take you through basically it's like their Main Street USA kind of set. But they just used that a lot for Gilmore Girls. So like everywhere you look in that set is like basically another Gilmore Girls landscape mark where you're like, oh my God, there's the gazebo. And they're like, who wants to take a picture in the gazebo? And I was like, me.
Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, this would be the only season that was in shot in the WB a lot.
Oh, that's right,
because it would have moved to Vancouver.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that they were shooting in on the WB lot in season 1 and then obviously not anymore after that. So some of I guess like, it does looking back on it, it's like, oh, like some of the sets do look a little different in season 1, and that's because they just had to basically probably rebuild a lot of that stuff or at least move it. So some of the stuff probably changed a bit.
Yeah, and speaking of sets, I had totally forgotten that Livewire actually destroys the pink cat, that
Yes.
cat statue, and they repair it by the end of the episode. But I had forgotten that she took that out. I was like, oh, that's funny that got referenced. So, which is, I guess, a metaphor that she's destroyed Cat Grant. She's taking out her vengeance.
Not the giant cat.
There is a question in the chat from Andy who says, this is mostly for Morgan, but would love Rebecca's thoughts too. If Legends of Tomorrow had another Captain Cold figure after season 1, I would have loved to have seen Livewire on that team after Supergirl season 3. Morgan, what are your thoughts? Would you have wanted to see Livewire on Legends?
I think Livewire would have been a really fun addition to Legends. She's got that kind of like over the top energy that Legends kind of thrives on. And I feel like Legends was really good at taking like characters who maybe had smaller roles in some of the other shows and giving them like kind of their own arc in Legends and letting them be ridiculous, but also sort of grounding it in character stuff. So I feel like Livewire would have done well on the Wave Rider. I think she would have really annoyed everyone first.
Yeah, would she have hated everyone?
Oh, for sure, 100%. She would have hated everybody. But I think eventually they would have won her over. I think it would have been especially funny for her to be on like one of the seasons with Ray Palmer because he was such like a Boy Scout and so like, come on guys, let's do everything as a team. And she would have been like, barf.
Yeah, she would have picked on him mercilessly.
It would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been really fun. I could definitely see Livewire being on the Wave Rider and helping them out, because after season 3, if they did bring her back, resurrected her from the electrical death that she incurs against Rain, maybe she would have been a hero. Maybe she would have been on
Yeah.
the side of good. She was sort of going there towards season. I know we're sort of skipping ahead, but she was going there towards season 3, and I think she probably, if she had come back, she would have been a full-fledged hero, which normally I would be upset about. I like my villains to villain, but I think Livewire, she earned that redemption arc that I think happens. So any other thoughts about Leslie Willis or Livewire before we continue on?
No, I just think that she's just the best.
She is the best.
She's just simply the best.
There's a song to that if you want to go check that out. Simply the best. That's Livewire. So I would agree with that. I think Livewire is one of those standout characters that I think season 1 really did a good job with, because season 1 was more standalone episodes versus some of the later seasons where they decided for a whole season they were going to talk about totems. So this was a real treat because, she kind of came in, did her thing, was excellent with it, and it left me wanting more, which thankfully we got more of Livewire after this. But I thought she was excellent. I thought Britt Morgan was so good in the role, and she did a good job of going up against Kara and Kat especially. So I thought those were great dynamics throughout the episode, and really gave Kara a good challenge as Supergirl. At one point, Alex tells Supergirl, like, she could kill you. Like, this is not somebody to mess around with. She could kill you. And what I liked about this episode is that Supergirl figures out how to defeat her. There's, Kat's helping her out a little bit, but it's Supergirl who realizes the way to defeat Livewire is to get her drenched and pour some water on her. So I really enjoyed that Supergirl was shown to be smart and resourceful and able to take down the villain on her own. Such a refreshing thing to see. So I really enjoyed that about this episode. All right, let's see. We should mention this one comment from Mara before we continue on.
Of course.
Mara says Livewire was super cool and had a strong wig game. So working it or wiggy in this episode.
I think definitely working it. I was like, that's a great wig. That's a great wig. That's not a wig that takes me out of the scene. That's not a wig where I'm like, oh my God, there's something on your head. Oh no, that's your hair. That was a top-notch wig. I feel like Livewire, we've voted on this one, and Livewire is always working it. She's doing her best. She's doing what she can.
I mean, it gets a little wiggy towards the end of the run of Livewire. Like
I mean, they all do, don't they? As we get along,
the sort of the crazier she gets, the crazier the wig gets. So there is that. But I think the wig looked the best in this episode. I think
that's when they had that CBS money.
The other 2 instances of Livewire's wig, I think, were maybe a little rough. But I think this one was the one. All right. Well, Morgan, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss in this episode before we get out of here? Did you want to talk about James and Lucy?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because James and Lucy are now together.
Apparently, they're vacationing together and having Thanksgiving dinner.
They're having Thanksgiving together, which feels like a big step from being broken up. Like. Feels like it might be like, oh, we just got back together. Like, maybe we should like take it slow, go see our own families. Like, no, you're coming with me.
We're ditching our families.
You're going to have Thanksgiving with me. I have to keep you in my field of vision. Which, to be fair, like as soon as she like takes her eyes off of him, he's like, hey, Cora. Yeah. What are you doing? But I feel like that was maybe the one place that the episode order might have like suffered, because I went like, wait, what? Because the last time we saw Lucy, she had just kind of showed up.
And she was like, hey, let's go to dinner and talk.
Yeah, she was like, hey, let's go to dinner and talk. And he was like, oh, if I have to. and now they're in such a committed relationship that he's going to Thanksgiving with her. So it felt like I missed a step there. I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't care enough to like be really thrown off by it. But I mean, I think that's the other thing is like this early in the show's run too. It's like not like you're going to be devastated on Kara's behalf or anything. You're just like, oh, okay. I guess they're together after that dinner. I guess what the show wants me to think. But I'm wondering when we get to the next episode, if there's going to be some James and Lucy stuff that would have been a bridge to make that Thanksgiving stuff make sense, or if they kind of removed it and they were like, uh-oh, that's not going to make sense. If it's like, if the next episode is like James and Lucy going like, should we get back together? And we just watched where they were in Thanksgiving. You're like, why are you guys still talking about it?
So Hagelblast in the chat actually has the answer to that. And how does she do it? Which is the 5th episode that aired, but was supposed to be the 4th episode. Lucy asks Kara if James is seeing anyone. It makes more sense if you watch the episodes in the intended production order. So that might answer your question there, Morgan. So there is that. I did want to point out, I believe, since I've been trying to track this, I think this is the first time that Kat calls Kara Kira.
Really?
At the end of the episode, in that scene where they're talking on the couch, this is I think I heard Akira at the end of the episode. And I think has she said chop chop in episodes prior?
She did say chop chop in one of them, I think. The last one?
I haven't been doing a good job tracking the chop chop, but I think this is our first Kira was in this episode. So there is that. I just wanted to point that out, just in case anybody else was having a Kira watch. Are we having a lab cat?
Yeah, he's just trying. Bunsen's just trying to climb up a cabinet, but it's okay. He gave up. He gave up.
Okay.
I can't do it. I'm not going to continue trying.
Oh,
well, hold on. Maybe I've spoken too soon.
He settled for the table.
Bunsen, hey, what's up, bud? Maybe you're done with what you're trying to do. Not the light. I saw you. I swear to God, Bunsen. I swear to God. No. Did you see that? Oh my God.
He's still trying. Do you need me to?
No, it's fine. You know what? There's nothing he can get in there. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. It's actually preferable to don't look at it again. Don't even look at it. What he'll do is he'll go all the way up on that light, and then I'll look up and I'll just see him kind of swinging there.
No!
And it's not great. It's not great at all. And I have to like run in here and be like, stop it.
Oh, hanging from the light fixture may not be the best. And why is this?
Bunsen, no. Bunsen, what are you looking at? Buddy, don't you go up there. Don't you go up on the china cabinet. Come on, buddy. Look at this. Aren't you sleepy? I drugged you. He drugged. Oh my God. He's a nightmare.
To any new listeners, the drug is referring to an anti-anxiety.
It's a mild
medication.
Anti-anxiety, and it doesn't work. So he's anxious, and he wants to cause destruction. So
yes, well, that was a good. We're getting a lot of Bunsen.
I can just tell he wants to do something destructive. That's the worst part. Is like every time you see him pop up, he's like, "What
he's
can I destroy?"
He's looking for something. Oh, that is so
never
funny.
A good sign. It's okay. He's disappeared. I don't know if that makes me more or less afraid.
You'd rather have him in sight.
He's somewhere. He's in the wind now, though.
Well, I guess this would be a good to. Aaron says he was hanging in there like the hang in there posters.
Oh my God, Bunsen! How in the world he is? Okay, so my cabinet has like a tiny little gap between the wall and the cabinet. He is between there somehow. Can you escape from there, buddy? Do you need help? I would back up. I'd back up. You're not going to be able to turn around. I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
I think he got in there. He can figure his way out.
The podcast listeners, the audio only listeners, are going to love this portion of the podcast.
Yes. Well, Bunsen is doing a lab cat experiment for this episode of Supergirl Radio, and is a lot of fun. Okay, well, I guess we should take advantage of the time that we have where he's not causing chaos.
I see a comment from Hagelblass who says, "Chop Chop was originally an ad lib by Callista that was left in the episode and then written into later episodes, which I did not know."
Yeah, I guess it became Callista or Cat's catchphrase as as she went along, which I think is a good choice. It sounds like something that Cat Grant should be talking about. The only other thing that I wanted to mention before we leave, because I guess we already kind of talked about Cat Grant, but I just thought about it in terms of the Cat Grant character, that she even has some character growth for Cat Grant as a her own individual person, because she initially was going to do like celebrity tabloid gossip, which would have been her bread and butter at the Daily
Yeah.
Planet. By the end of the episode, she's like, no, let's do some stories about people doing positive things for Thanksgiving and helping other people. So the Cat Grant's really turning a corner in this episode. She's changed by the Livewire incident and wants to focus on the good instead of the negative, like Leslie always did with her radio show.
Yeah, that's true. I liked that little bit at the end where she was like, instead of this or that, like, what if we, focused on something positive?
And I think that's a good choice. So I don't know. Maybe a Thanksgiving celebrity gossip article might have been what you want after you've eaten a lot of turkey and you're in between naps. But I think it's a positive and wise thing that she focused on the good things that people were doing for Thanksgiving. That's a very appropriate thing for a Supergirl episode, and Kara seemed to be pleased with that. All right, so let's get to our final thoughts. So Morgan, what do you think about Livewire? Where is it fall in the pantheon of Supergirl episodes?
It's one of my favorites from season 1. It's actually one of the season 1 episodes that, like, I think back on and I remember really well. But I wasn't sure how it was going to hold up because it's been ages since I've watched it. And I was surprised at how good I thought it was. Like, I remembered it being good, but it was actually kind of better than I remembered it being. So I just think this is such a good Supergirl episode. It's kind of a example early in season 1 of the show's like finding its footing and really presenting us a great memorable character.
Yeah, I think Livewire is one of the all-time great Supergirl episodes. It has something for each character. It has great Supergirl moments, which is fun for me. And I think Britt Morgan really outdid herself as Livewire. So I think she brought a character who really kind of only existed in Superman in the animated series, and I think she appeared in a few comics based on the animated series. I can't remember exactly when she first debuted into the comics, but most people knew her at the time as a Superman the animated series character, and so it was fun to see that animated character come to life in such a great way and really bring her to live action in a way that was very believable and enjoyable to watch. So that is I think going to close out our thoughts on the episode, but I think we have some listener feedback.
We sure do. We have an email from Daryl who wrote in with some thoughts on Livewire saying, I don't quite understand why Leslie hates Supergirl. It's not very clear. Yeah. I also don't understand why the show keeps reminding us that Wynn likes Kara. I didn't think he had a chance since the first episode, so to keep reminding us seems unnecessary. I really feel sorry for him in that dinner scene. It's a surprise he comes back to Thanksgiving dinner again in later seasons. That's true. You think that would have scared him away?
Well, he just didn't have anything else to do. Was he just going to be by himself, or?
Also, I've heard the pie is really good. Maybe it's worth all the awkward interactions to get at that pie.
Eliza Danvers makes a good pie.
Love seeing Helen and Dean on the show. In all the seasons of the show, I don't think they ever confront the fact that Alex turns to alcohol when things get too emotionally heavy. What are your thoughts on the cover of Take Me to Church playing during the Alex and Eliza scene? I remember thinking it was a very strange choice during a mother and daughter scene.
Now, Teresa and I did discuss that originally on Supergirl Radio's initial episode of episode discussion of Livewire, which we did talk about it being kind of a strange choice. But Morgan, what are your thoughts on that?
That one also took me out of the scene a little bit when he started playing it. I went, what song are they playing here? And it was like a stripped down, like emotional, like slow version of it. It wasn't even the normal version. They were like, take me. And I was like, what? In this scene? Why? So yeah, that was a good call. I hadn't remembered it until Daryl mentioned it, but yeah, it was a very strange musical choice.
It's maybe not appropriate for a mother and daughter scene.
It feels weird.
And there were like candles in the scene too, because the lights had gone out, all the electricity and the power had gone out. It was setting a weird tone, I thought, for a mother and daughter scene. I shouldn't say weird, an unusual maybe is maybe that's a better term for that. I'm not really sure. It was a strange choice for sure. Well, Kenny wrote in to share some thoughts saying, quote, I first heard about the Supergirl TV series in early 2015. I was like, how is this going to work? The 1984 Supergirl film was a mixed bag. Since Arrow and The Flash proved you can create a great superhero TV series, I was very much looking forward to it. Prior to getting into Supergirl, I was a moderate DC TV watcher. Yes, I liked and loved Smallville back in the day, but I needed something more. Because of the cast like Melissa Benoist as Supergirl and Kara to Kyler Lee as Agent Alex Danvers, I became hooked on the show. I loved Supergirl, at least the first 3.5 seasons, but the second half of season 3 and on is when the show lost its magic and heart and Supergirl got sidelined way too much, though there were a few standout moments in those seasons like Red Dawn in season 4. The Take the Grass scene was great. Seeing the strong bond and the love of the Danvers sisters being the thing that brought Supergirl back to life still brings me to tears each time I watch the episode. Also, the introduction of Tyler Hoechlin as the Arrowverse's Superman and Clark Kent in Supergirl Season 2 was amazing. Tyler is the best Superman since the late, great Christopher Reeve. He and Melissa's chemistry as Clark and Kara were spot on and true to the character. My favorite episodes on Supergirl are way too many to list, but my favorite is the crossover with The Flash. Seeing Barry and Kara team up is so perfect and one of the better Arrowverse episodes. It's not loaded with a ton of plot holes and characters. My overall final score for Supergirl is 8 out of 10 cryptos for seasons 1 and 2, and for seasons 3 through 6. They were okay, not bad, but could have been so much better in the writing and storytelling. Not having Ali Adler as showrunner after Supergirl season 2. Well, Ali Adler left Kenny after season 1. Season 2 really hurt the show. My big takeaway from Supergirl is that it was a great show and the lead character and the cast were amazing. Melissa's Supergirl is so iconic, unquote. Thank you for sending in your thoughts, Kenny. Yeah, I think the Ali Adler of it all, I think made a big difference. I think she really brought something to the first season of Supergirl. I remember before the show even started, there was an interview where she had a whole bunch of Supergirl books like on her desk, and they were like Sterling Gates books. And I was so excited about that. She referenced Kryptonese, and I was like, oh, she knows Supergirl stuff. So that was something that I think was lacking in later seasons. But Ali Adler in season 1 really cared about making the show really be faithful to the character and the mythology of Supergirl, and that I think really comes through in the series in season 1. Even though Livewire is not a Supergirl villain per se, she does appear with Batgirl in the Batman animated series episode Girls Night Out, which Hagel Blast reminded me of. Supergirl and Batgirl team up to go after Livewire. So she's kind of a Supergirl villain, even though she was made for the Superman, the animated series. So it was good to see that connection from Supergirl's other iterations come in and be part of the live action version on the TV series. Well, Morgan, would you like to make some snap judgments?
I would love that. So before we wrap up, we're going to need to make some snap judgments.
In the game of Snap Judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary. So Morgan, I think we have a guest. Irmgard wanted to join us to do some snap judgments. Irmgard is a Patreon supporter and is able to do this. So Irmgard, are you there?
I am here. Hi, you two. How are y'all doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
Good.
Doing good. Trucking through Colorado, so.
Oh, nice.
Fun.
Let's do some snap judgments.
Yes, yeah, we've got your snaps, and I submitted a few. So, Morgan, do you want to guide us through a snap judgments?
Of course. So the first set of snap judgments are from Irmgard. So they should be familiar to you. So the first one is, what would you rather do? Tell your mother you have been working for a secret organization, or face Livewire head on?
What's your choice, Irmgard?
Oh, you asked me first. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
All right. I would face Livewire any day before I would have to face Eliza Danvers and tell her that I work for a secret society.
That is tough. I think I would rather have a conversation with my mother about being a secret organization. I think that would be a little less risky. And I think I would make it out of there a little better, and maybe not come out with maybe some scars of some kind. With I don't know, burns. Maybe burns would maybe be what you get if you faced Livewire. So I think I'm gonna go the safe route and just confess that I've been working for a secret organization.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go confessing as well. Because I don't think I want to face off against Livewire. She's a little intense. She's not gonna hold back her punches. She's gonna, break my cat statues in here. No thanks.
And she's also gonna say some really mean stuff about you.
Her remarks are going to be as cutting as possible. I can't take that.
I'm emotionally fragile. I can't.
It's true. Okay, so our next snap judgment is: where would you rather be? At your on-again, off-again girlfriend's Thanksgiving dinner, or your crush's Thanksgiving dinner?
So, Irmgard, which one is your choice?
I'd rather be at my crush's Thanksgiving dinner, because I wouldn't want to meet my on-off-again girlfriend's dad, because I would have some choice words for him.
Yeah, that could be really awkward. Yeah, I guess your crush's Thanksgiving dinner is at least a new situation. Your on again, off again significant other would be very been there, done that, probably a little old hat. So I guess a crush's Thanksgiving dinner, it's like a new thing. You get to meet new people maybe, and you get to eat new food. Maybe they have some new awesome food that you haven't had before. So I think that's what I would go with.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the crush as well. Like, it's the possibilities, right? Like, you're there and you're like, I'm gonna make this romance happen between the cranberry sauce and the pie. I'm gonna lock this down. Meanwhile, if you're at your on again, off again girlfriend's house, you have to figure that like a good portion of her family hates you because of all the off again, right?
Yes, the off again would
like
be the
when
problem.
you're off again, she's like, James is the worst. I hate James so much. And then what? You're supposed to just pop back in for Thanksgiving and like expect those family members to be like, right, she likes him again. After hearing all of the stuff about when she hated you,
Yes.
No thanks. I'd be like, no thanks. Sorry. This is a sign this relationship isn't working.
You really want to try and test me right now.
Okay, next one is, who is the better mother, Kat Grant or Eliza Danvers?
So, Irmgard, who is the better mother, Kat Grant or Eliza Danvers?
Eliza Danvers, anytime.
All right. Yeah, I would probably say Eliza Danvers, but maybe not by much. She did lie to her daughters about a pretty significant thing, like how your father died. That's a pretty bad and a terrible secret to keep from your daughters. So, but I would probably say Eliza Danvers.
Yeah, I'm going to go Eliza Danvers. Sure, she lied, but I feel like Cat Grant as a mother would be too frightening. I think I'm emotionally vulnerable, and I don't think I could take it. I feel like she comes from a long line of scary people. So it's like there's not going to be anywhere to find comfort there because your grandma's also going to be scary, and like probably all of your relatives.
Yeah,
Everybody's going to be chopping at you at the holidays. No one needs that. Okay. Last snap judgment from Irmgard is: what would you rather do? Be Hank Henshaw's second in command or Cat Grant's assistant?
All right, Irmgard, which one are you picking?
Second in command any day.
Okay, all right. Working with Hank Henshaw. I think I would prefer to be Cat Grant's assistant. You would probably work a lot, but I would imagine she pays pretty well. And you also probably get to meet some famous people and do some cool work. You get to work in that Catco building, which might get destroyed every now and then. So there's that. You might have to get a new desk every now and then. But I think that would be an exciting place to work.
Oh, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with Hank Henshaw's assistant because I just feel like it would be safer somehow. For me, emotionally, it would be safer.
But is this the original Hank Henshaw, the really angry David?
That's
Hayward?
a good question because I'm thinking Space Dad, and I'm thinking he's gonna take me under his wing.
Yeah, but what if the question was turned and it was the original Hank Henshaw?
Original Hank Henshaw. Oh, then I'm going Cat. Then I'm going Cat. Yeah.
Yeah. That changes things.
I one time had an interview where the HR lady was like, did you ever see that movie The Devil Wears Prada? And I was like, yeah, I've seen that movie. And she was like, this job would be like that. And I was like, no, I'm good. So I could have, in another life, I could have been Cat Grant's assistant.
You were almost there.
I was so close. Okay, so our next set of snap judgments are from Rebecca, longtime listener. What would you rather be, a traffic reporter in the Cat Copter, or have your own radio show?
Irmgard, do you have a preference?
I would rather be have my own radio show. It's way safer than being in one of those helicopters, I think, especially during a thunderstorm or rain going on.
Yeah, definitely don't go out in the thunder and lightning storm. I would rather have my own radio show because I'm not great with heights. I've never ridden in a helicopter, but I don't think I would care for it too much. So I would probably rather have my own radio show.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a radio show for the same reason that Rebecca did. I don't want to be in that copter. It's come down once already. I'm not getting back in it. I saw what happened to Leslie. No, thank you. But also, I mean, we already kind of have our own radio show.
Yeah, you're already used to it.
I've never fallen out of a helicopter because of it, so I feel like I'm on solid ground here. So we're going to say radio show. Okay, so what is the bigger twist in this episode? That Jeremiah Danvers working for the DEO, or Hank Henshaw not being who Kara and Alex think he is?
Yeah, good one. I think I go with Jeremiah on this one. I think.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah, I think it's I would go with Jeremiah because we really didn't know nothing about Jeremiah at all. We seen something was up with Hank Henshaw in the other episodes, but we didn't know nothing about Jeremiah. All we knew is he was dead and he was a scientist so far.
Yeah, I like the twist with Jeremiah Danvers. That he wasn't dead or he didn't die in the way they said, but that he had chosen to work for the DEO because he knew everything there was to know about Superman. So I thought that was a pretty good twist.
I'm gonna differ, and I'm gonna go for the Hank Henshaw twist because even watching now, knowing the solution at that moment when she's like, his name was Hank Henshaw, I was like, oh no, girls, you in trouble. So I think that like when you're watching it without knowing where it goes, I think that was like a really great twist, especially for early on in the season.
You make a good case for that.
Thank you. Would you rather stay home and cook Thanksgiving dinner or eat out and have someone else cook?
I'd rather stay at home and cook Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, yeah. See, I like to cook, but man, for Thanksgiving dinner, I would rather someone else have to cook it and do the dishes. So I think I'd rather eat out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm gonna go stay in and cook, even though I myself am not good at cooking. I like a home cooked meal, especially on Thanksgiving. We've done a couple of like Thanksgivings out occasionally, and I'm always disappointed. Like I always want the home cooked version of it. As long as somebody is helping me with the cooking, I'm okay. So I would rather get the home cooked version. I think it feels more Thanksgiving-y. Okay, and last one. What's more unforgivable? Turning Leslie Willis into a monster or controlling her content?
I have a feeling she doesn't like you controlling her content. I think she actually enjoyed getting turned into Livewire. I think she wouldn't want you messing around with her content at all.
That's a good point to look at it from Leslie's point of view. I think you make a good case for that. I think maybe Kat had a reason to control her content. She was kind of going off brand. Kat was like, Supergirl is my thing. Don't talk bad about her. So I guess I would say the more unforgivable thing is Leslie becoming a monster.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Leslie becoming a monster, even though she loves it. Because I don't feel like she really made her argument for why Supergirl is bad. She was just like, I don't like her outfit. I mean, Leslie, you gotta look beyond that. You gotta, if you're making a point, you have to really make it. I don't think she definitely didn't sell Kat Grant on her content. So I feel like, yeah, sometimes you just have to work for your boss. Sorry, Leslie.
All right, I think that's going to take us to the end of Snap Judgments. Irmgard, thank you for joining us again, and for supporting the Patreon account for Supergirl Radio. So we appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Y'all have a good night and stay safe out there.
All right, you
Awesome,
too.
thanks.
All right, so we are going to wrap up Snap Judgments. No judgments on your Snap Judgments. And before we get into some plugs, I just wanted to get to Daryl's question. He asks, why is the podcast skipping the episode rewatch for the month of June? It's a good question. Mostly because we're not going to be here for most of June. Morgan has some conflicts. I have some conflicts. So we're going to...
And our conflicts are at different times, which means that there's always going to be like one of us out of pocket.
So we're going to take it as far as we can. And then there are going to be some episodes where I'm going to be solo with the crypto character spotlight. And then I'm going to release some episodes that are going to be me as well. So you're going to have to be with me for a little while. Unfortunately, I know everyone comes for Morgan, which is why I come to Supergirl Radio. But if you're okay with just me talking about Crypto the Superdog, I'll be doing some of those episodes.
I mean, you've got your man on the street from Superman Celebration. I'm excited about that.
So there is that as well. We're going to do a Superman Celebration, another recap of that. So that should be really interesting. So we'll see how that goes, who I'm going to talk to, what I'm going to see, to be determined. But that's why some of the schedule is not exactly carrying on through. We're going to have to stop a little bit because we won't be able to chat with each other about it. And we'll come back to the rewind once we both get back in the regular swing of things. So Morgan's going to get some time off, and I will be out for several weeks. So, but even though we will be gone, the podcast will not be gone. You will still get episodes of Supergirl Radio. You'll still have video premieres of Supergirl Radio. So if you still like the live chat functionality, you can still gather together and chat about things while you're watching the video premiere if you so choose to do that. So
that's fun.
Yeah, so that's a little fun. So that's the promise we make to you. Even if we take off, we try to provide an episode, but you'll never miss Supergirl Radio, even if we are out of pocket. So just wanted to address that before we got out of here so that if anybody else had that question, we would be able to address it as well. Okay, so I guess, Morgan, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
I got confused where I was on the document.
It's okay. It's okay. It is confusing, but I think maybe we'll take this opportunity to go to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV plugs if I can find the right one I need. Okay, so we're going to go to some plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DC TV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DC TV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DC TV Podcast on Twitter, and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash vessel, also known as New Rachel.
And we have Livewire designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store.
Yeah, so you can pick
live and wired.
You can be live and also wired. It's not just one, you can't just be live and not wired. I think you have to be live and wired, is that they go together. It is part of the requirement of being live and wired. So we have t-shirts and mugs and stickers and all kinds of things in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. And these live and wired with Leslie Willis designs were created by Sarah Louver, aka Comica Girl. So if you're a fan of Sarah's, this is one that we commissioned from her, and she did a fantastic job. I'm actually wearing a Live and Wired t-shirt now. So, and I have a Live and Wired mug somewhere. I don't have that on my person tonight, but I definitely recommend it. It's a really cool design, and it's unique. I don't think there's any other Livewire merchandise out there like it. So definitely check that out if you are a Livewire fan. And we definitely need to do another contest for the DC TV podcast plugs. I'm starting to realize that every week we need some new plugs.
I mean, I was going to make a sad joke that like none of those shows are left now, but it's really true.
Well, I mean, the podcast, some of the podcasts,
a lot of the podcasts remain. The shows are no longer on, but yeah, that's true. The plugs are a little out of date. We're going to have to refresh those and I mean, you guys have to save me from having to do that myself.
All right, we'll work out the details and maybe announce something this summer. In the meantime, if you would like to support the Supergirl Radio Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio, and we'd like to thank our legion of super sponsors who already do that. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Irmgard, Miriam, Nicole, Lizeth, Faith, Brian, and Ethan. If you would like to do that and support the Supergirl Radio Patreon, we have 4 monthly levels that help us keep Supergirl Radio going and help us do what we need to do to bring the podcast to you every week. So we definitely appreciate you considering being part of the Supergirl Radio Patreon, and we appreciate everybody who already supports the podcast. All right, so if you would like to keep in touch with me, you can check me out on the platform Vero at Derby Kid. I am posting things about what I'm reading or watching or listening to. So that's a great place to catch up with me and what I've been into lately. You can also check me out on Instagram at The Derby Kid, where I post the occasional picture over there. And I am on YouTube. I have a personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I know I have been missing my Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice critical reception analyses because I've been out of town and traveling a little bit here lately. But this week, I promise, this upcoming Sunday, which I believe is May 28th, I will be doing a live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you are interested in talking about art criticism and asking the question, what is art? We'll be looking at that through the lens of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and the top critics of Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out if you would like to do so.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we are starting to bank up some June episodes. I think we're going to watch a Hulu rom-com called Crush and do an episode on that with my DC TV After Dark co-host Sarah. She's gonna be a special guest star. She's gonna be sober for this one, so that'll be a new experience for her on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. And speaking of DC TV After Dark, we spoke last week with Nate and Brittany from the Naomi podcast, and we kind of talked about sort of the sad news of that show. It became a different interview than we had originally planned out. But basically kind of talked to them about Naomi, and then just, did our normal DC TV, talked about what we were into and what we were watching, and did our Inside the Actor Studio questions. So we had a really fun time on that one. So that should be coming out pretty soon this month, at the end of this month, or maybe the beginning of next month. So surprising both of us, we are keeping to our bi-monthly schedule somehow. So far, it's only episode 2, but so far so good. We're patting ourselves on the back for it. We feel real proud of ourselves.
Yeah, I'm liking this new season of DC TV After Dark. There's lots of promise. It seems like with the podcast. So I'm very excited to hear all of that. That you've got going on with all of your shows. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope you found this episode of Supergirl Radio mildly intriguing.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!